We had been married for 3 years after dating for 2. In the beginning, things felt right. We were both invested. We both put in effort. We both showed up for each other. There was passion, balance, and a sense that we were building something together. That started to change after our first anniversary. At first, the shifts were small. Fewer home-cooked meals. Less interest in the life we were supposed to be sharing. More expectations placed on me, with very little effort coming back the other way. I ignored it. I explained it away. I told myself she was stressed from work or dealing with family issues. I came up with every excuse possible except the one that was obvious. I was being used. I was providing stability, financial support, and social status, while receiving less and less in return. The moment everything finally clicked came after a 14-hour workday. I came home completely drained. The house was dark. There was no dinner. She had been home all day, but the sink was stacked with dirty dishes she had used throughout the day. The laundry I had asked her to take care of was untouched. Yet somehow, she had found time to get her nails done and go out to lunch with friends. I knew because she had posted pictures online. When I asked her about the housework we had agreed to share, she rolled her eyes without even looking up from her phone. "I did not sign up to be a housewife," she said. I told her I was not asking for a housewife. I was asking for a partner. That is when she said something that changed the way I saw everything. She said she wanted the benefits of marriage without the responsibilities. I tried to stay calm when I asked, "What do you think you are actually contributing to this relationship?" She looked genuinely confused, like the question had never crossed her mind. "I am your wife," she said. "My presence should be enough." Then she listed what she believed counted as her contributions. She went with me to company events. She kept up her appearance. She had not cheated on me. She said it like loyalty was a favor, not the bare minimum expectation of marriage. That night, I slept on the couch because she had friends over late, and I had another early shift in the morning. Lying there in the dark, something finally broke inside me. Not my heart, my illusion. I realized I had been living in a one-sided relationship. I gave. She took. That was the pattern. The next morning, I went to work with a clear head for the first time in a long while. I thought about how she spent the money I earned while keeping her own income separate. I thought about how she enjoyed the house I mostly paid for without contributing to its upkeep. I thought about how she used our marriage as social proof while treating me like an afterthought at home. I did not want revenge. I did not want drama. I wanted fairness. Or at the very least, I wanted to stop being taken advantage of. If she wanted marriage perks without marriage effort, then maybe it was time she experienced exactly what she was giving me. Nothing. That day at work, I opened a new spreadsheet. At the top, I typed 2 words, reciprocity plan. Under that title, I started mapping out exactly how I would match her level of effort. No more, no less. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation and a last attempt to restore balance. She had no idea that dismissing our marriage so casually would trigger a complete shift in me. I was done being the only one investing. From that moment on, she would receive exactly what she gave. And I had a strong feeling she was not going to like seeing herself reflected back. The morning after that conversation, I sat in my car before going into work and made a detailed list of everything my wife had stopped contributing to our marriage. The list was longer than I expected. Cooking, cleaning, emotional support, physical intimacy, financial contribution to shared expenses, even basic respect. Yet she still expected premium housing, social status as a married woman, access to my health insurance, inclusion in my family vacations, and unrestricted use of my credit for large purchases. I decided my first step would be financial. For years, we had a joint bank account where I deposited about 80% of my income. Her contributions were inconsistent. She always said her part-time job did not pay enough to contribute regularly. At the same time, she kept a separate personal account that I had no access to. When I checked the joint account that morning, I saw she had withdrawn $700 the day before for shopping. That was the same week she told me we needed to cut back on groceries. That afternoon, I went to the bank and opened a new personal account in my name only. I transferred half of the joint funds into it, leaving her share untouched. Then I changed my direct deposit so that only a fixed percentage of my paycheck went into the joint account. That percentage exactly matched the percentage of her income she contributed. The rest went to my new account. When I got home that evening, she was waiting for me with a carefully practiced smile. "I have been thinking about our conversation," she said as she moved closer. "I was just stressed. You know I appreciate everything you do." Her hand slid down my arm as she mentioned wanting to book a weekend getaway. It was clear she expected me to pay for all of it. "Sounds nice," I said evenly. "Let us split the cost evenly since we both work." Her smile flickered for a split second. "Well, you know my job does not pay much," she said. "I thought you could cover it as a gift." I looked at her and realized something important. This was not a misunderstanding. This was who she was. And I was finally done pretending otherwise. Now that I was actually paying attention, the entitlement in her voice was impossible to miss. "I am cutting back on expenses," I said calmly. "I updated our banking setup today, so it is more proportional to our incomes." The fake warmth vanished instantly. "You did what?" she snapped. "Without talking to me first?" The irony almost made me laugh. She had been pulling money out of our joint account for years without saying a word to me. But suddenly, she wanted meetings and discussions. "I am just following your lead," I said evenly. "You keep your personal money separate. Now I am doing the same. I will contribute to shared expenses in proportion to what you contribute. No more, no less." The argument that followed told me everything I needed to know. She accused me of being cruel, of betraying her, of changing the rules. But she could never explain why it was fair for her to have financial independence while I was expected to bankroll everything without question. When she realized I was not backing down, she changed tactics. Tears. Accusations that I did not trust her anymore. "Trust comes from actions," I said. "And your actions say you want independence, not partnership. I am respecting that by doing the same." Over the next week, I fully committed to my reciprocity plan. I cooked meals for myself only, just like she had been doing for months. I cleaned up my own messes and left hers alone. When she stacked dishes in the sink, they stayed there. I did my laundry and ignored hers completely. Then came the moment that really tested everything. Her car would not start, and she needed a ride. For years, I would have dropped whatever I was doing to help her. No hesitation. This time, I replied with the same excuse she had given me when I once asked her to pick me up during a snowstorm. "Sorry," I texted. "I am in the middle of something important. Can you call a ride service?" "Are you serious right now?" she wrote back. "I am your wife." "Yes," I replied. "And I am your husband. I am just giving you what you give me." That night, she confronted me face to face. "What happened to you?" she demanded. "You have changed." "Nothing happened to me," I said honestly. "I just started valuing myself enough to expect balance. I am matching your level of effort in this marriage. Nothing more, nothing less." She stormed out and went to stay with a friend. I did not feel satisfaction. I felt resolved. This was not about punishment. It was about setting boundaries and deciding what I would and would not accept anymore. What surprised me was how empowering it felt. For the first time since our wedding day, I felt like I was standing up for myself. And even though it was uncomfortable, that feeling was worth it. By the third week, the dynamic between us had shifted completely. She came back after 2 days, clearly expecting me to have apologized and fallen back into old habits. Instead, she found me calm, steady, and completely comfortable with the new arrangement. The old power imbalance was gone, and she did not know what to do with that. Her first move was to use intimacy as leverage. After months of rejecting me with excuses about being tired or having headaches, she suddenly appeared in the bedroom wearing lingerie I had never seen before. When I politely declined and used the same "too tired" excuse she had used on me countless times, the look on her face was almost unreal. Shock, offense, disbelief. "Is there someone else?" she demanded immediately. "No," I said truthfully. "I am just matching your level of interest. When intimacy stops being a tool and starts being mutual again, I will respond the same way." That failed, so she moved on to strategy number 2. She involved other people. The next day, my phone filled up with messages from her family asking why I was suddenly treating her so badly. According to her version of events, I had become cold and controlling out of nowhere. She left out years of imbalance and one-sided effort. I did not argue or defend myself publicly. I replied to every message with the same sentence. "I appreciate your concern, but this is between my wife and me." At the same time, I started documenting everything in a private journal. Not to build a case against her, but to protect myself from doubting my own reality when guilt tried to creep back in. Then came her third move, a performance. At dinner with some of our closest friends, she became overly affectionate, praising me loudly and listing things she claimed she had done for me. Most of them had never happened. When someone asked about our plans for the upcoming holiday weekend, she jumped in before I could speak. "We are thinking about going to the lake house," she said with a smile. "He works so hard, and I really want to treat him." The lake house belonged to my family, and the so-called treat would have come entirely out of my pocket. That was the moment I realized something important. She was not interested in balance. She was interested in control, and I was done giving it to her. Our friends nodded along, impressed by what they thought was her generosity. "Actually," I said calmly, cutting in without raising my voice, "we have not talked about any plans yet. If you want to take a trip, we should probably discuss how we would split the costs." For a split second, anger flashed across her face. She covered it quickly with a laugh and squeezed my arm a little too hard, her fingernails pressing into my skin. "Oh, he has gotten so practical lately," she said to our friends, smiling wide. After they left, the mask came off. "How dare you contradict me in front of them?" she snapped. "You made me look bad." I stated the truth. I replied evenly. "If you want to appear generous, then make offers that actually come from you, not from my wallet." That is when she reached for her favorite weapon. "My father always said I deserved a man who would provide everything for me without question," she said coldly. "Maybe he was right about you not being good enough." Years earlier, that comparison to some imaginary perfect provider would have crushed me. This time, I just nodded. "You are entitled to that belief," I said. "And I am entitled to expect partnership, not servitude. If that does not work for you, then maybe we need to rethink this marriage." Hearing the possibility of things ending come from me instead of being used as one of her threats clearly rattled her. I could see the calculation set in. Divorce suddenly stopped being theoretical and started becoming financial. Without my income, her lifestyle would collapse. Her tone changed instantly. "I do not want that," she said more softly. "We can fix this." "I agree," I said, "but only with clear expectations and equal effort." That night, for the first time in years, she washed the dinner dishes without being asked. It was a small thing, but it told me something important. She was capable. She just had never been required to be. The real test came the following weekend when my car needed repairs. For years, I handled maintenance for both vehicles. This time, I took care of mine and left hers alone, even though her oil change was long overdue. "When are you taking my car in?" she asked, clearly assuming I would handle it like always. "I am not," I said simply. "I take care of my car. You take care of yours. That is equality." She stared at me, struggling to process a reality where her problems were no longer automatically mine. That was when it really hit me. This was not just about saving the marriage anymore. It was about saving myself from a lifetime of one-sided sacrifice that would eventually hollow me out. About a month into my reciprocity plan, the confrontation I had been expecting finally arrived. It started with a credit card statement. $3,200 charged to our joint card. Mostly designer clothes and high-end salon visits. For years, we had an agreement to discuss any purchase over $200. For years, I had swallowed those charges without protest. Those days were over. I left the statement on the kitchen counter and sent her a message telling her we needed to talk when she got home. Her response was casual, almost dismissive, which told me she still did not fully understand how much had changed. When she walked in and saw me sitting calmly at the table with the statement laid out, her expression flickered between defiance and strategy. She chose the tactic that had always worked before. Distraction. "You would not believe the day I had," she said, launching into a long story about workplace drama. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I gently redirected the conversation. "About the credit card charges," I said, tapping the paper. "I will continue paying my share of household expenses. The personal items you bought will need to come from your own account." She froze. "That is not how we have ever done things," she said sharply. "The old arrangement was not working for me," I replied. "Just like you decided certain marital responsibilities were not working for you." Her voice rose immediately. "So this is punishment because I did not want to be your personal cook and maid." "This is not punishment," I said. "It is consequence. You wanted independence from traditional expectations while keeping traditional benefits. I am applying that same logic to finances." What followed was the most honest conversation we had had in years. She accused me of changing the rules in the middle of the game. I reminded her she changed them first when she decided marriage was a one-way flow of benefits. She said I was being petty. I said I was being exact. giving no more and no less than I received. "Do you even love me anymore?" she demanded, tears forming in her eyes. I recognized those tears. I had seen them before, usually when logic stopped working and emotion became the tool. "I married you because I loved you," I said truthfully. "But love cannot survive without respect. And respect only exists where there is reciprocity." For the first time, she had no immediate response. And for the first time in a long time, I knew I was finally standing on solid ground. The argument kept building until she suddenly grabbed her phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker with a look of victory on her face. I knew the move immediately. This was one of her favorites. She was calling her father. "Dad," she said, her voice instantly shrinking into something wounded and innocent. "He is refusing to pay the credit card bill." Her father's rough voice filled the kitchen. "What is the issue here?" he said. "A real man takes care of his wife's needs without complaining." In the past, that kind of pressure would have shut me down. I would have backed off just to keep the peace. This time, I did not. "Sir," I said calmly. "With respect, a real partnership involves both people contributing. I am willing to talk things through with my wife, but this is between us." There was a long silence. Her father was clearly not used to being challenged. He stammered for a moment, then demanded to speak to his daughter privately. She stormed into the other room with the phone, but I could still hear her voice rising as the conversation dragged on. Whatever support she expected, she was not getting it. About 20 minutes later, she came back into the kitchen, her face flushed with frustration. "He says I should think about whether this marriage is even working for me," she snapped. "That is a fair question," I replied. "One we should both be asking. Do you actually want a relationship built on real partnership?" For the first time, I saw uncertainty cross her face. The script was not working anymore. Her usual tactics were failing, and she looked genuinely lost without them. That night, something unexpected happened. Without saying a word, she made dinner for both of us. She had not done that in months. It was nothing special, just pasta with store-bought sauce, but the action itself mattered. It felt like a test, like she was checking to see if reciprocity could work for her too. We ate quietly. As I sat there, I realized this was no longer just about correcting an unfair marriage. It was about finding out whether there was anything real left between us once manipulation and entitlement were stripped away. We were standing at a crossroads. Either we rebuilt something honest from scratch, or we admitted that our marriage had been built on a foundation too shallow to support real partnership. What surprised me most was how this confrontation affected other parts of my life. Standing up to her and her father woke something up inside me. A sense of self-worth I had buried for years. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again, not the smaller version I had become trying to meet endless demands. 2 months passed after I put my reciprocity plan into place. A fragile balance settled in. She started contributing more. Not perfectly, not consistently, but enough to notice. I matched her effort exactly. When she cooked, I cleaned. When she showed genuine affection, I returned it. It was not romantic, and it was not ideal, but it was honest. Then came the charity gala. Every year, my company hosted it. It was important. Careers moved forward there. Connections were made. In the past, she always came with me and understood what it meant for my work. This year, when I mentioned the date, she casually said she had already planned a girls' weekend that same weekend. "Can you reschedule?" I asked. "This only happens once a year, and you have known about it for months." Her plans had come together just the week before. "No," she said with a shrug. "Everything is booked. Your work events are boring anyway. Just go alone." In the past, I would have swallowed the disappointment and gone along with it, just like I always had while still showing up for everything that mattered to her. This time, I just nodded. "I understand," I said. "I will go alone." Something about my calm response unsettled her. She studied my face, probably looking for resentment she could use later. When she did not find it, she looked almost disappointed before leaving to meet her friends. The night of the gala, I put on my best suit and went by myself. I took professional photos alone instead of the usual couple pictures. I focused completely on networking instead of worrying about whether she was bored. The night turned out to be one of the most productive events I had attended. Without splitting my attention, I secured a serious lead on a major project. The following weekend was her sister Hannah's birthday celebration, an event she had reminded me about repeatedly, stressing how important family was to her. even though she often dismissed things that mattered to me. That morning, as she finished getting dressed, I told her I would not be attending. "What do you mean you are not coming?" she demanded, staring at me in disbelief. And in that moment, I knew the balance had truly shifted. Because for the first time, my life no longer revolved around keeping her comfortable at my own expense. "My whole family is going to be there," she said sharply. "They are expecting you." "I understand," I replied calmly. But a last-minute opportunity came up with a client I met at the charity gala. Since work events are not priorities in our marriage, I assumed family events worked the same way. Her face turned red instantly. "That is completely different," she snapped. "That is my family. The gala was your career." "And this client is also my career," I said evenly. "I am just applying the same priorities you have already set. If professional events are optional, then family events must be flexible too." She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Throughout the day, my phone kept buzzing. First her messages, angry and accusing. Then messages from her parents, her siblings, even an aunt. Everyone wanted to know why I was not there. I answered each one politely and consistently, explaining that I had a work obligation. The same explanation she had normalized any time something important to me came up. When she came home that night, her anger had cooled into something colder and more deliberate. "My family thinks you are having an affair," she said, watching my face closely. "That is the only explanation they can come up with for how you have been acting." I recognized the tactic immediately. Create a false story. Apply pressure. Force me to defend myself. "That is an interesting theory," I said calmly. "Not true, but interesting. I am simply prioritizing what is prioritized in return." Her eyes narrowed as that approach failed. Then she reached for her biggest weapon. "My sister's husband just bought her a brand new car for her birthday," she said. "Everyone was talking about how generous he is, how much he values family." The comparison was intentional, designed to trigger insecurity, to push me into competition. That was generous of him, I replied honestly. Different marriages have different arrangements. Ours is based on reciprocity now. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Then something unexpected happened. She broke down. Not the controlled tears I had seen so many times before. These were messy, frustrated sobs. "What happened to us?" she asked between breaths. "You used to do everything for me." "I did," I said quietly. "And it was never enough. Because you treated it like an obligation instead of something freely given. Over time, that breaks something important." For once, she did not immediately argue. She sat down hard on the couch, mascara streaking down her face. "So what now?" she asked. "Is this how it is going to be forever? Just keeping score?" "That depends," I said honestly. "Reciprocity does not have to mean scorekeeping. It can also mean mutual generosity and mutual consideration. But both people have to choose that willingly." She looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something that looked like real reflection. "I do not know if I know how to do that anymore," she said softly. "Neither do I admitted. "But we could learn if we both want to." Something shifted after that conversation. Not healed, not fixed, but exposed. Like a wound finally uncovered so it could either heal or scar permanently. That uneasy peace lasted exactly 3 weeks. During that time, she made some effort. Not consistently, but noticeably. She handled some household responsibilities, contributed to decisions, even initiated intimacy without an obvious agenda. I matched her effort exactly, staying true to reciprocity while quietly hoping it might lead to something real. Then the credit card bill arrived. $14,700 charged to our joint account. Luxury spa treatments, expensive restaurants, high-end boutique purchases, all far beyond anything we had ever agreed on. What made it worse was where I found the statement, hidden under a stack of magazines instead of placed with the rest of the mail. When I confronted her, she denied knowing anything about it. When I showed her the charges, she switched to justification. "I work hard," she said. "I deserve nice things." "I agree," I replied. "Everyone deserves rewards for their work. But those rewards should match their contribution and come from their own income." Her eyes hardened. "So you are refusing to pay it?" "I will cover my share of our shared household expenses," I said. "The personal luxury spending is your responsibility." I could see the calculation happening in real time as her anger melted into practiced vulnerability. "I cannot afford this on my own," she said softly. "My job does not pay enough." Then maybe luxury spa weekends should not be a priority, I said gently. Or maybe finding a higher-paying job is something to think about. The silence that followed was heavy. And in that moment, I knew we had reached the end of the road. Because partnership does not survive on excuses. And love cannot exist where responsibility is always someone else's problem. She stared at me like I had just suggested something outrageous, instead of what most adults deal with every day. Then she said the words I had been half expecting for months. If you do not pay this bill in full, I want a divorce. The sentence hung between us. A year earlier, that threat would have sent me into panic. I would have rushed to fix everything just to keep the marriage alive, no matter how miserable I felt. This time, something inside me stayed calm. I understand, I said quietly. If that is your choice, I will respect it. That was not the reaction she expected. She immediately tried to walk it back. I do not actually want a divorce. I just need you to understand how serious this is. I do understand, I replied. You are saying that unless I pay for luxury purchases you made without talking to me, our marriage does not work for you. That tells me exactly where your priorities are. She tried again, then again. First came accusations. I was cruel. I had changed. Then nostalgia. Reminders of how good things used to be. When that failed, she reached for fear. She threatened to take half of everything in a divorce, clearly assuming that would force me to give in. You are entitled to a fair division, I said calmly. I have already spoken with an attorney about equitable distribution based on contribution. The word attorney stopped her cold. You talked to a lawyer behind my back? I prepared for the possibility that reciprocity would not work for you long term, I explained. The same way you prepared for independence by keeping your finances separate throughout our marriage. The room went silent. I would rather build something real with you, I added gently. But I will not go back to an arrangement where I give everything and receive almost nothing. She left without another word. Late that night, she came back and made one last attempt. She tried to use intimacy the way she always had, as a shortcut around real resolution. I turned her down, calmly but firmly. I told her that closeness should come from connection, not be used as leverage. That rejection seemed to make it real for her. She packed a small bag and said she would be staying with her sister until you come to your senses. 3 days later, divorce papers arrived. My attorney had already prepared me for that possibility. We responded accordingly. At the first mediation session, she arrived confident, like she still believed I would collapse at the last minute rather than lose her. Instead, I brought documentation, separate accounts, disproportionate financial contributions, household responsibilities, a clear record of imbalance. As her lawyer reviewed everything, his expression shifted from smug confidence to visible concern. By the end of that meeting, her demands were significantly smaller. 6 weeks later, the divorce was finalized under terms that reflected actual contribution, not entitlement. The last time I saw her was at the final signing. As we stood to leave, she paused and looked at me with genuine confusion. Why could you not just keep things the way they were? She asked. They were working fine. They were working for you, I said gently. A relationship only works when it works for both people. She shook her head like I had spoken another language. In that moment, I understood something clearly. She truly did not grasp what seemed obvious to me. That partnership requires mutual effort. That love without respect is not love, it is exploitation. I walked away without feeling victory or revenge. Just clarity. The marriage that began with promise ended with vision. The lesson was painful, but it changed me. I stopped being someone who gave endlessly without expecting balance. I learned that boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. 2 years have passed since then. I rebuilt my life on mutual respect. I learned to recognize the early signs of one-sided relationships. I discovered that real partnership feels completely different from constant imbalance. It feels like freedom. It feels like growth. It feels like peace. People sometimes ask if I regret the marriage or how it ended. I do not. Every experience shapes you. And that one taught me the most important lesson of all. Giving someone exactly what they give you is not cruelty. It is the clearest mirror you can hold up to show them how they choose to love.